Hello and welcome. My name is Bettina Ray. If you haven't met me before, if you've been practicing here for a while, welcome back. It's always good to have you. So today's class is yoga for runners. I've had a few requests from the mums in my community for a practice that they can do after they run. But before we get into the class, I want to chat about a few things that you should know about your body before you get back into running after having a baby. And this includes those of you who may be 1-2 years postpartum and haven't actually done anything overly physical in that 2 years, because it happens. We have babies, we get busy, sometimes exercise comes at the bottom of the list. So before you get back into running, just be aware the type of exercise that running is. It's high intensity, it's going to be quite high impact on your joints and of course on your core, your pelvic floor, and a common complaint for mums on the backs as well. So before you get into running, I'd like you to check out a couple of other classes that I've already done. So I've got one in my online yoga studio on the pelvic floor from both myself, so a whole class, but also with Lucy Muldoon, who's a women's health exercise physiologist. So she talks us through how to actually do the contraction, make sure that you're strong there, and how to also strengthen that area if it's quite weak, because you don't want to go running with a weak pelvic floor. We all know what's going to happen and it's not going to be pretty. The other area I want you to check before you get back into running is your core. While it doesn't feel like a core exercise because you feel like you're mostly moving your legs, because it is that high intensity, the core is needed to support the back. So if your core is weak, you might go for a run and you'll be suffering for days and weeks afterwards if you don't have strength in that area. So again, I've got a class in my online yoga studio for checking abdominal separation. Lucy also goes through it in some of her videos on the back, the strength of the back, and just how you can check very simply at home, doing a quick little test, that your core is strong. Also check out another class on the back in the studio. So just checking where your areas of weaknesses and strengths are and how you can kind of work with the weakness if you find you have one. So once you've checked out those 3 classes in the studio, it's time to get down to business. Let's talk about running. And now I understand why running appeals so much, even though it's a high impact exercise. For me, running is always my therapy when yoga's not cutting it. So if I'm going through a particularly hard time and I kind of need to shake out some stuff from my body, running is it, because I find running really painful, and it's the only exercise, or one of the few exercises, that guaranteed I can't think of anything else while I'm doing it, except for I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain. But I try and change that mantra to something a little more positive. So I get why you want to do it. And yoga and running complement each other beautifully, because yoga is going to give you the tools that you need with the breath. Often getting on top of that breath is one of the most challenging things in running. Yoga will help you to do that. It's going to help you obviously to stretch out those sore, tired muscles afterwards. And as we know, the core is involved in running. And of course, we're going to be strengthening that in a yoga class. So today's little flow is mostly going to be about stretching out. So this is going to be the perfect class to do after you've done a big run. You can come back and slow down and do some of these yoga poses. So obviously our focus is going to be glutes, quads, hammies, calves, and hips. So all of the legs. Yes, your upper body is used during a run, and it can be really beneficial to open up the chest afterwards, because sometimes we can get into a bit of this position. But I want us to really focus on those legs, because they're the core movements that you've been using when you've been running. So no more talking, I promise. Let's get straight into the class. Unroll your mat, let's get going. All right, so let's start in a down dog. I don't know about you, but after I've been running, I kind of just want to hang out here for a while. It feels nice to let the head hang, bring some blood back into the head, just gently releasing the blood out of the legs so they're still fairly active here and you're still getting that beautiful stretch through them, but it's not bringing all our focus to them just yet. It's kind of that intermediate pose between coming right down and stretching out the legs. So just hanging out here, maybe even taking a little rock from side to side, bending into both knees, just breathing long and deep. So if you've just been for a run, you might be puffing. So just taking that time to start to slow down. In and out through the nose. And then as you inhale, look towards the hands, step the left foot forward, but keep it quite a nice shallow stance. You may want to bring the hands up onto the hips and keep it quite high, especially if your hamstrings are really tight. Inhale, lift and lengthen through the chest, and then exhale, just fold down a little bit. So if you've got quite a lot of range in the legs, you can bring the fingertips to the floor and soften right down. But if that's too intense, just stay with the hands on the hips. You may even like to interlace the hands, soften down further and bring them up, so you're getting a bit of a stretch through the arms as well. Like I said, the arms aren't doing hugely strenuous work, but you probably are swinging them a little bit as you run. All right, release the hands back down, step that left foot back. So it's a bit of a short stance here for your down dog, and then step the right foot forward. Inhale, lift and lengthen, so you might like to come back up. You don't have to though, you can keep fingertips on the floor, and then exhale, forward fold down. So trying to keep those hips square. You may find that this one wants to kind of pop out. See if you can draw it back in. And just soften. Hopefully, if you've just been for a run, the mind is still pretty clear. So just enjoy that space here. I always find I'm on a bit of a post-runner's high, which is always nice. So just enjoy that while you stretch it out as well. So if you make it last as long as possible. Let's release the hands down. Step that right foot back to down dog, pedal it out. Let's take the right foot even further back. So it's kind of a modified stretch here, really stretching into that right calf. Bit of a variation on down dog if you like. Opposite side. So step the right foot back in, step the left foot out. Really drawing that left heel down, pressing strongly into both hands. See if you can breathe long. Lots of oxygen going through your body is now going to help with those cramps. Step that left foot back in. Take the feet wide on your mat. So find the outer edges of your mat and then walk the hands up so that you can forward fold here. You might find you want to keep the hands on the shins. We're going to keep the legs straight. So normally we bend and fold. I want you to keep the legs straight at the moment. So be where you need to be. If you can, bring the hands underneath the chest or fold right down. But if you're finding that you're kind of hanging out here, then find the thighs. And then as you exhale, we're going to bend into those knees and really fold down. And then inhale, start to straighten up, pressing into those heels. Release the hands to the mat. Heel and toe the feet underneath the hips. Bend into the knees again. So you should find that the chest touches the top of the thighs. Inhale, press into the heels, straighten up the legs. Breathe. This time, I want you to take peace fingers around the two big toes. Bend back into the knees on the exhale. On the inhale, lengthen out through the chest and the legs. Exhale and fold. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale and fold. So you notice we're really focusing right in on the breath. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Because that's the thing your body needs right now, is sending oxygen to those legs and starting to reduce some of the cramps. Walk the hands forward. Inhale the left leg to the sky, bend and open out. And step it in between the hands. We're going to turn so that we can find our wide leg forward fold. So you want to turn the toes in slightly. Inhale, lift. Exhale and fold. So if that's too much, you can just keep the hands underneath the chest if you need. So you could stay here, but if it feels good, you can walk the hands right underneath in line with the legs and just take the crown of the head towards the floor. Staying here, reach the right hand across to the left foot and then inhale the left arm up and over.
Maybe you can walk it across to the right foot, so you're finding a bit of a twist. You'll know when that's enough for you. So beautiful stretch down through the left side, as well as the stretch through the legs. And let's release that left hand. Walking across to the opposite side, left hand finds the right foot. Inhale the right arm up and over, and then see if you can walk and extend it a little bit further. So you'll notice the legs may change in intensity as you move the arms. Try and keep the weight even through the feet. Slowly release the right hand and come back to your regular forward fold here, just softening the head and neck back down. Breathing in deep, in and out through the nose. All right, so from your wide leg forward fold, I want you to walk the hands back to the front. Frame the front foot, step that front foot all the way back, bend and open out through the knee once more. Release the left side down, the right side, inhale to the sky. So really drawing the left heel down as you open out here. Just breathing, opening through the hips. And then as you inhale, draw the right knee into the chest this time. Stretch the left leg out behind you, so coming into pigeon. So you may need a block or a cushion or a bolster or something underneath that hip, especially if you're finding you're really high. So if you've been doing a lot of running, your hips are going to be tight, so you might be up here. Support with whatever you need. So if you've got some, hell, even some soft toys laying around would work under that hip, just so you don't have as much pressure drawing down. So you've got some choices. You can stay upright. For me, this tends to be more intense, especially through the low back. Or you can soften down. I personally find this isn't doing a whole lot for my hips anymore. I really need to open and draw that back leg back. But if you're already quite tight, this may be giving you a really beautiful stretch just here, resting in the restorative version of pigeon. Otherwise, you can stay upright, so keeping that weight right over the hips. You could even draw that back leg in, getting a beautiful quad stretch as well, and a bit of a chest opener as you press the foot into the hand. So you can play with drawing the foot right in and releasing it back. You could even play with coming up higher if you like, perhaps even reaching the arms up to the sky. And then release the hands down. Tuck the back toes and then just lift the leg off the ground. So it's quite a strong stretch through the back leg there. And then when you're ready, press into the hands, lift that front foot back. Inhale, left leg to the sky, bend and open out through the hip. And then step that left knee behind the left wrist. Stretch the right leg out. So you know your options now, wherever you want to go on this side. So when you're reaching towards that back foot, you can even play with perhaps reaching with two. Eventually this pose, the arms reach up and over. Goals, things to work towards, not necessarily today. But you can just play with changing which hand holds the foot. And that often changes where you feel the stretch. All right, let's bring that back leg around. I want you to bring both feet in front of you. And now if your hammies are really tight, sitting up on a step or a block is going to be a great way to do this, so you can kind of keep a bit of space under the legs. So to start with, 2 feet together. Inhale, lift up. Exhale and fold. So if you've just been running, it might be quite tight. You might not be going very far at all. If it feels good, you can get the hands underneath the knees and the thighs and just give a bit of a massage through those hamstrings. Start talking to them sweetly and hoping they're not going to burn tomorrow. So keep the breath full and long. Let's inhale and just feel the chest lifting a little bit higher. And as you exhale, see if you can fold a little bit deeper. So the fold is just coming from my hips. It's almost like I'm trying to put my chest on my knees, not my head on my knees, which just creates that round through the spine. Inhale, sit tall. Bring the feet together, but keep them wide. So you've got this beautiful diamond shape with the legs. Inhale, lift.
Exhale, just again fold from the hips. So you don't have to come down particularly far. Your knees may be up a little bit higher than mine. Still doing it right. And exhale and fold. Breathe and soften. And inhale. Slowly coming back up. This time, bring the feet in a little bit closer. So you may find again the knees are coming higher still. So soften them down as much as you can. You can even place the hands on the knees and just start to open. So really opening through the hips here, but also the inner thigh. If it's feeling good, you can gently lean forward, but I wouldn't go too far. Inhale, slowly coming back up. Draw the knees together. We're going to come to lie on the back. So if your core is feeling strong, you can lower down slowly, or you can use the hands to support. I'm going to work with the reclined hamstring stretch. So just release the right leg down, holding onto the calf of the left. Inhale, draw the leg in towards the body. Try and keep that foot flexed so you get this beautiful stretch behind the knee. See if you can soften the shoulders and the neck. Maybe even close down the eyes if it feels good. If you haven't yet been found by children. That's also a really great thing about running. You just get to escape. It's like running away from it all, isn't it? That is if you don't have to run with a pram, because that's the worst. All right, take that left foot across the right knee, and you either can reach the back of the thigh, or if you can, find the shin and draw that in. So it's just going to give you that bigger stretch through this hip. Again, keep the shoulders soft. Breathing long. And release that leg down. Cross it. And drawing that right leg in this time. If it's comfortable, you can take the left leg long. I find that's too intense for my low back. So if you want, just keep the sole of the foot on the floor. Drawing that right leg in. And then taking that right foot across the left knee. Keeping this foot flexed is going to support and protect this right knee. So try and keep it flexed. Hug the left leg in. You can even add the hamstring stretch here if you like. You can do a double whammy. If you're short on time, do both together. But sometimes it can be nice to do one at a time. Maybe even a little rock from side to side. Let's hug them into the chest. Just take a little rock from side to side here. And then find your happy baby. So lift the feet up towards the sky, either holding onto the shins, or if you can reach the soles of the feet, drawing the knees down. So it's almost like you're trying to draw the knees into the armpits. Little rock from side to side here can feel good too. All right, and just to finish off, draw the knees back in. Rock and roll yourself back up to have a seat. It can be really nice to finish off with an inversion. So it's going to be a gentle inversion. We're going to take the legs up the wall. So find a spot on a wall somewhere to do this. We're going to work with the legs together first, and then we're going to take them wide. And now all this is going to do, while you're running, you've got all this beautiful oxygen pumping around the body. What we want to do at the end is bring that to the head, because that's when you're going to get that beautiful creative energy going on. You'll feel like on top of life. So find yourself a wall, bring the hip up it. What you want to have is your bottom right up against the wall and your legs pressing against the wall. So you can do it back here, but then you're going to have to do this weird little bum shuffle. So if you bring the hips right up it as you roll, you'll find you get there in one go. Draw the toes back towards you. Let the arms rest out to the side. You can bring them to the belly. You can take them above the head, however feels good for you. Just focus on the breath here.
So you'll notice my legs are still active, even though it's just legs up the wall. It can feel quite inactive. I'm drawing the toes back and down. If you've got a partner or someone around, you can get them to kind of lean on your feet. It gives you a really beautiful hamstring stretch. And then we're going to take the legs wide. So just take them as wide as what feels good and then press them back into the wall. And as you kind of rest here and breathe, gravity is going to do its thing and it's going to start drawing them open a little bit further. So it's kind of, without thinking too much about it, without pressing into that stretch, you're just going to naturally let gravity do its thing. So try not to hold them. Now we've kind of relaxed them. You notice my feet aren't flexed anymore. They're completely relaxed. And each time I exhale, see if you can just kind of release the grip on the wall so that they're gently opening. You can close down the eyes here if it feels good. And then when you're ready, bring the hands underneath the legs and gently support them to come back into center. So we'll just take a moment here with them back into center, letting those hips realign, and then draw the knees into the chest, so hug them in, maybe a little rock from side to side if that feels good. And then slowly roll to one side. So those few little poses are going to be perfect for doing at the end of your run, but also the next day. So I know for me, sometimes the time I make for a run is all I get. So if it's half an hour without the kids, it's like run for that entire time. And I know it can feel tempting to skip out on stretching, but even if you can do this part of it with the kids around you, you're going to feel better the next day. Before we go, we need to also talk about the self-care that you really should be putting into place after you run. It's intense on the body. So afterwards, you really kind of need to amp up the self-care a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to find you're getting stiff and sore, and you're probably not as likely to go for that run again. Or you're going to find injuries are happening because your muscles are just getting really tight, and that's when they break. You think of something that's brittle and tight, it breaks more easily than something that is quite flexible and movable. So let's focus on self-care after we run. So things like magnesium, really important on getting those muscles the nutrients they need after running. It's going to stop you from cramping and it's going to stop you from really aching that next day. So make sure you're taking some magnesium. Doesn't have to be a supplement. Eat some bananas, eat some spinach, dark leafy greens, almonds. All of these things have lots of magnesium in them. So you can look at it just from having a great diet. It doesn't have to be an expensive supplement, though they can help if you're doing lots of running. Take an Epsom salt bath. So pop it in, some lavender, beautiful and relaxing once the kids are in bed, and chill out after you've done a run. It can be a really nice way just to bring that focus back on yourself too. Like we go for this run and sometimes it can feel like getting that outward energy, and it's really yang, masculine energy. So if you can come back with the self-care, it's going to balance it up nicely. So I guess that's why yoga and running go together so nicely, because it's that yin and yang perfect complement. And of course, obvious, but I don't know, I really struggle with this one if I'm not on top of it, upping the water intake. So you're sweating it out, you've got to put it back in. So make sure you get lots of water, especially the day that you're running and the day after. Just up it a bit more than you usually do and go to bed a little bit earlier. So if you can get even half an hour's more sleep, and remember the time you get before midnight's worth more than the time you get after midnight. So turning the TV off, getting off Facebook, getting half an hour extra is going to really help you out in getting your body to kind of adjust to the running a lot faster and to recover a lot quicker. I hope you enjoyed this class. Remember, there are heaps more in the studio. And if you are running on a regular basis, the yoga practice is going to be a really nice complement to that. So you can check out all the other classes, do this one when you need, and of course ask for help from me and special requests whenever you need it. I hope to see you in the studio and the online yoga circle. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.